Welcome back to the Square. I am your host, Curtis V.
And I'm Curtis IV.
All right, so we are going to wrap up the first round of our March Madness inspired best sports movie bracket here. And we got the West Division here. We've already run through. The last 3 episodes have been about the other divisions, and so if you don't see one of your one of your movies here, definitely go check out the other 3. Also, you can see the full bracket on Twitter. It's at _square podcast. Go check it out there. And yeah, let's just dive right in. Let's start by kind of introducing the bracket itself. So at the 1 seed, we have the original Rocky. At the 2 seed, we have Moneyball. 3 seed is going to be White Men Can't Jump. 4 is Varsity Blues. 5 is going to be Heaven is a Playground. 6 is Above the Rim. 7 is Warrior. And then 8 is Bad News Bears. So that will round out the last 8 movies here. Most of these were picked by you, but also do keep in mind seeding is not picked by either one of us here. That is, again, done by box office numbers and whatnot. So as non-biased as we can possibly make it, as you see, that 2-7 matchup is a heartbreaker for me. But we'll go ahead, just dive right in. Let's kick things off with Rocky versus the Bad News Bears.
I'm going to start with the Bad News Bears. This is the original.
Not that 2005 crap.
No, not the Billy Bob Thornton. We're talking about, the 1976 Bad News Bears, the original. But, Little League Baseball. We had it all. So Little League Baseball, just a ragtag group of band of misfits. Majority of the team can't play. The 2 or 3 of them can, but just dysfunction from from
top to bottom.
Right. It just, I don't want to say rags to riches, but it's just one of those type of movies. This is where you get your you give the narrative that you get like from your major leagues. It's just complete this chaotic situation that finds a way to galvanize and come together at some point and make a run for it. And we're seeing it at the kid level. It's a family movie. It's very interesting plot, with a alcoholic coach, recovering alcohol. No, he wasn't recovering alcohol. He was an alcoholic. He's just but it was about, could he stay sober enough to coach the children? You can see the differences between the 70s and today's standards.
I don't think this movie wouldn't hold up.
This movie couldn't exist, which is, I think, why they spent it a bit with the Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
And it was more to his lewd behavior. It's just kind of like no one would question it, as opposed to, Mr. Buttermaker was like he literally was like a drunk, and it was really like, okay, they talked to him 1 minute, he's not sober, the next minute he is, it was really like a thing, but it wasn't it didn't drive the movie either. It was really about these kids. And then they got the female pitcher, and she was a pitcher, right? If I remember that correctly, the girl.
Yes, I did. Really, yeah.
She became the pitcher, and of course they had the little bad boy kid that sat on his bike and was hitting home runs from his little little moped bike, whatever. From what I remember in this movie, I think I've seen it all in its entirety one time in my entire life. But it's one of those things that you see all the time throughout on TV. At some point, they're showing it. And it had a franchise. They had 3 movies before they did the remake in the 2000s. But so it had a chain of movies, So to some degree it was a very successful franchise for its time. But we're talking late 70s, and it's just one of them kind of just the ragtag movies that just
I will say, successful is a relative term. I'm just looking at the box office numbers here. Bad News Bears, as a successful film franchise, started off with 42.3 with this movie alone, $1 million being made at the box office.
$42 million. Wow.
42.3 million. But that's going up against our one seed, Rocky, which made in the same year, 1976, made $156.2 million.
Okay. I tell you what, let's let Sylvester Stallone be Mr. Buttermaker, and I bet you the millions is just pour in just for him
That's
being
true.
in the movie. There's star power here now. I mean,
I didn't say that there wasn't.
right.
I was just saying success is a relative term. We're talking dollars and cents at the end of the day.
Oh, that's success.
Yeah. No, I mean 42 million. I wish I had $42.3 million.
I thought you were gonna say 42,000. And I would have been like, okay, that's about what it looked like when they made it. I mean, come on, they just rolled out to a park. Somebody broke out a camera. They start, hey, stay with your lines cut, and they did a masterful editing job, and then they had a movie. That happened all in one afternoon.
One afternoon, yeah.
That, no truth to none of what I just said, people. It's just what it looked like.
We'll move on. No, I mean, but it is going up against one of what kicked off one of the most successful film franchises in history, in Rocky, the original Rocky. So I mean, that movie, and we all know that one. It's about just this ragtag dude who just ended up, I guess, arbitrarily getting a shot at the title when Apollo's.
It was about as random. He was.
There was no rhyme or reason as to why they were picking Rocky.
Oh yeah, it was. It was.
Oh well.
No. I'm just playing. He was looking through a book because there was no internet at this time.
Yeah.
So he's looking through a book of fighters and stuff, and so he noticed his name, and he liked the Italian Stallion, and that's what drew him in.
Yeah. Because I mean, he was also a promoter. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, that's fair. But I mean, there is that. But I mean, when you're looking at just his actual fighting ability, like it didn't make sense as to why they were picking him. But that neither here nor there. That's what kicked off one of the greatest.
He was a brawler. It was a charity fight that the champion was setting because he had no other at the time. He really didn't have any challengers at the time, and he was trying to promote
the
a
guy
fight.
that he was gonna fight ended up getting injured.
Right, that's what happened.
Yeah.
He got hurt, so they needed something they needed a hook to promote the fight.
Yeah.
So he was gonna give some underdog a chance.
Exactly.
Which in essence was based on a true story. Like
really,
that element was based, like that happened in real life. Not that it's not the movie.
Not that. Yeah, I know.
Just that element of there was an underdog was given a chance to fight some champion. I forgot what the champion was. It wasn't at the heavyweight division or anything like that. But
nice little tidbit there.
But yeah, and if I remembered correctly, I think that the underdog person won. You know, it was something like that. It was just like
because this one ended in a. Oh,
he lost on a split decision.
Oh, gotcha. Oh yeah, because it was that slow mo. They both knocked each other down, but they both got back up.
That's Rocky 2.
Oh, why am I always confusing that?
I don't know. This is the original one. He went the distance. That was his whole goal.
Yes.
I'll help you out on this. I know Rocky.
I think I just liked Rocky 2 more.
Much more action.
Yeah.
But Rocky, from a cinematic aspect, was this one got all the accolades, all the awards.
Yeah.
It's the one that laid the groundwork. We wouldn't have a Rocky 4 if there wasn't a Rocky 1,
Not at all.
or a Rocky 2 for that matter. But
or a Rocky 3,
right? Or and the god awful Rocky 5.
Oh, you wish we didn't have that one.
Could we please take that back and edge that out of my memory?
Just cut that one out and just immediately put Rocky Balboa.
Never happened. We're just gonna fast forward past all of that, But with that being said, so he's given an opportunity, to fight for the championship. He doesn't want it at first, because, like you were saying, what was Rocky? He was a loan shark. I mean, he was a amateur boxer on
the side. Ish.
Because I'm like not sure if he was professional per se, because he fought. He had
a couple of fights under his belt already.
Oh, he had a bunch.
Oh, okay.
He had a full career. I think he was just fighting at the amateur level, or it was low level. It really wasn't explained what level he was on.
Yeah.
but yeah, until he did his title defenses, and we knew all those were professional fights. But
Yeah.
he had like a 80 something and something record,
Oh,
So he had
80.
fought a
God.
he had a full
Jeez.
he had a full career, and that's why I remember. I mean, you got to pay attention to some of the dialogue between what him and Mick was talking about. They allude
Yeah.
to him, his fighting, and why didn't you take me serious and
Yeah.
train me? It was based on that type of thing. But I started to find out his records and stuff through a couple of medias. One was through a video game when they actually put his record out
Yeah.
there, and then to find out that then the information came from, like, if you had to do some of the background, like the backstories that they didn't talk about, that he actually did have a record.
Yeah.
And if you've seen Rocky Balboa, they actually flashed his record up then.
That's true.
And that's where you seen the rest of it. He fought a man. I mean, man, they could go back in time and recast him and do a whole,
Yeah, they totally could continue that and do a kind of
prequel.
a prequel series.
Yeah, way before Adrian or Paulie and
just his complete young the why Mickey didn't take him in.
Why did he start fighting in the first place?
God.
Did we just come up with something?
That is we are putting a copyright on that.
Right.
Nobody steal that. That is ours. We came up with that on the fly.
Is this, the Balboa memoirs?
Oh man. No, yeah, but I mean, these are two like classic movies. I mean, obviously, both of them. It's funny that they both came out in '76, but I don't think Bad News Bears holds any weight against Rocky, the original, at all.
True, because they're both classics, but one is only truly iconic.
Yes,
that's Rocky. So we don't have to waste more time. I gave Bad News Bears its due.
Yeah.
I mean, listeners, you all can chime in, agree, disagree. I felt with you where you were going with that, but yeah, I had to agree with you. Or I'm just pissed off. How dare you abandon the Bad News Bears? I grew up during that time. I get all that. That's we're embracing the feedback. So.
Yeah, no, please get involved. Please tell us how dumb we are. And
how dare us pick one seed? I mean, really.
Of course. No, but yeah, I definitely think Rocky. Like you said, it's more iconic, and it's one of these movies that it like I said, it kicked off one of the greatest film franchises in history. But moving on, we've got two of yours again here. Varsity Blues taking on Heaven is a Playground. I mean, you definitely have to tell me what Heaven is a Playground is about again here.
Okay, Heaven is a Playground was made in 1991, I want to say. Yep. Okay. 1991. It was made right on location in Chicago, right in Cabrini Green, right on the projects, right down in the north side of Chicago. Before they were torn down, the iconic, if you don't know what the Cabrini Green projects are, if you remember the show Good Times, it's the buildings that they show in the red buildings. They do have a white brick version of the Cabrini Greens as well, but the red ones are very iconic. Yeah. They kind of stand out. But those buildings don't exist anymore. But this is where that movie was made before they tore those buildings down. So, and within the parks that was in there and the little courts and stuff. But it's about a coach / recruiter who has all these connections and he can get like the players on his team that play for him in the summer. He hooks them up and gets them basically recruited into colleges and get them, kind of get them set up for any of those who are trying to relive and find, and capture their hoop dreams and so on, which is another movie that was a documentary made in Chicago based on two players. It was kind of interesting, dude. And all this was made around the same time, actually. So just 1990, 91 era. Man, Hoop Dreams did not make our list.
It didn't. Yeah.
I didn't even think about it until now, even though that was a documentary. But moving on.
I think that's probably the reason why we kept it out.
Yeah. We don't want to kind of get away from documentaries, but.
Because, I mean, if that was the case,
Last Dance definitely would have been. We could have been, we could have.
We can do a whole nother bracket on that. That'll be our NAT.
Interesting. Moving on.
That'll be our NIT bracket. We'll do that in a month or so.
Gotcha. So so that's what takes place. However, the movie was it didn't do so well in the box office because the star of the movie was supposed to be casted with Michael Jordan, and then he had scheduling conflicts and so on and so forth, and therefore they had to settle for Bo Kimball, who is actually a Chicago native, but he spent his career kind of bouncing around the league. He played some years in New York. He played some years with the Clippers and a few other teams, but he did play for Loyola,
Oh,
and that was where he did I think he shot a free throw based on one of his teammates who got really sick and ended up dying.
oh,
I forgot the name of I'm spacing on the name of the guy right now, but he did that in memory of him. So I think he shot his free throws left handed, and I think he
gotcha.
made them, but in the game. And
Yeah.
so it was one of those things to attribute to him. That was kind of like Bo Kimball's claim to fame. And I know he looked familiar in the movie, or I could never place his face, and I was like, I think I seen this dude on a basketball card somewhere. And then I finally
Didn't you
figured
say
out
like
who
your
it was.
teachers were a couple of your teachers?
I said over over the course of my just a quick sidebar on the course of my coming up like in middle school
Yeah.
and grade school is what they called it back then. But coming up in that time and up until my freshman year, I met two teachers on two different occasions that have starred in movies that was filmed in Chicago.
Yeah.
One like when I was back in the fifth grade was Wildcats with Goldie Hawn as the female football coach. That was another movie that did not make our list.
Yeah.
And Wesley Snipes is in that movie, as well as Woody Harrelson and another all-star cast of people in that movie. But my gym teacher was one of the referees in the championship games, and he had a line at the very end
Nice.
and a little quick um, cameo, and then he ran back into the field and came out of the shot. And then in Heaven as a Playground, I met a substitute teacher. There was a lady who explained that she was in one of the scenes having a cocktail as they were panning across like one of the bars in or like a restaurant, fine dining restaurant in one
You
of the
guys just
scenes in
must
the
have
movie.
pissed her off one too many times that day.
Must have been, and I just some kind of way, yeah. In the course of my growing up in Chicago, I came across two, you know, low level movie
Movie
stars.
star.
So small world, I guess. I don't
Yeah.
know, but oh no, I got another one. That I had another substitute teacher who knew um this particular actor, and I don't know I don't know his name, but for anybody who remember the movie RoboCop,
Wow.
I know I'm talking about the original one.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a. I'm chopping this up so bad. On one of the board of directors who made the decisions for like RoboCop, it was a black guy that was in there. And back when they had asked RoboCop like what does he eat, and they had it was like the little paste thing that
Yeah.
came out. He was the one who kept tasting it, and he's like, it tastes like baby food. It was him. The substitute teacher was best friends with him, and he pulled out his picture and everything, like his
Wow. That's
it was show.
hilarious.
I was like, oh my god! So yeah, I forgot about that. I had 3 occasions when I was in school. So yeah, it's just, that's my little uh, dance with Hollywood
Yeah.
and being in school, living in
We're so
Chicago.
close to being a movie star.
I mean, Chicago is a booming place. You never
Yeah.
know who you're gonna meet. All right, back to Heaven of the Playground. So Michael Jordan was supposed to be
Yes.
the star, and because of scheduling conflicts, he was pulled out. This is pretty much why no one heard about the movie at this point, because he was supposed to. That really was going to be the draw
It's
of
just
of the show.
disappointing that
It was really
wasn't him.
based.
Yeah.
It was really all about having Michael Jordan in this movie, and unfortunately, I thought it was still good based on the characters that they had in the movie and who and just what it just caught that essence of just summertime. It's summer vacation, basketball, no school. For some reason, I don't have to work. You're still in that little pocket of time, right, where you're not being forced to have a part-time job,
Yeah.
where you could just go. The biggest thing in your day was just knowing, just basically just getting back before it got dark. That was your biggest concern.
Yeah.
And oh my goodness,
That is not the world we live in today anymore.
right? That movie captures that kind of essence where it's just everything's carefree, and just for this summer we can just go kick it, and it's gonna be nice. And yes, but then you don't get Michael Jordan, you get Bo Kimball.
It's just,
man,
like I said, it's just a
yeah.
little bit disappointing.
Yeah, it was a little underwhelming in the box offices, but I thought it was still a
I actually can't
solid.
even find their box office numbers.
They probably don't want to. They probably not to be found. So
I
and
mean, and it's going up against Varsity Blues. I mean, if you want to
yeah, and it wasn't
transition to that
and it
one,
wasn't a major like major
yeah,
theaters, and it wasn't one of those just in some artsy
yeah,
theater that with
true.
one showing. No, but it didn't last long either. And then once it and then, of course, back in them days, you had to wait a while before they got released on VHS, and once it finally did,
It's a
then
whole nother process for
yo,
them.
my
Yeah,
gosh, yeah, so it'd be like 6, 7, 8, 9 months later before it's even remotely going to be released again.
completely out of mind, and then you see it in a shop one day, and like, oh yeah, I remember
Exactly,
that.
and then, and so that was Heaven as a Playground. It was based. That was the synopsis of the movie, but like I said, it was really just kind of like recruiting street ball, organized street ball, because that's it wasn't the and one type of stuff. It was like literally, he ran his team like a team, like they ran plays and all this type of stuff. So
We'll get into some more street ball later in this episode in a
yes,
little
we
bit here.
are. Yes, we are. So and then we have, of course, Varsity Blues, and I'll go quickly into that.
Yeah,
High school football. I believe this takes place in Texas
I
somewhere
think
in,
so.
I forgot the name of the team, but they were the Coyotes. I know that, but I believe it takes place somewhere in Texas. I just don't know where. Texas is a very big state. And it's basically showing this coach who's kind of, he's trying to get this 20 something, some obscene number of division championships he's trying to win. That you would think in most cases that, oh man, they must be playing for the state championship, which they really wasn't. They was just trying to play for this division championship. So, which tomato tomato, it was just the
Yeah,
storyline. I really, but they were trying to play for a championship. Was just at the division level, and he was a iconic Hall of Fame paced coach. He had a statue in town and everything, and but he was a hard ass, and none of his players really liked him, and he just kept. It was really about his legacy. He could have cared less about the kids, and he basically used the kids for his legacy and pushing them harder than they needed to be. Um, uh, you know, Not really showing false love, false care, this false sense of that I really care about you, and this I'm here about your upbringing and your well being. No, he used to threaten they college they college what do you call it, their recruitments, their eligibilities.
yeah.
He was putting that in jeopardy. He would threaten his players with that. He manipulated his players and taking cortisone shots, letting them play hurt and injured when they shouldn't have been. He
Yeah,
convinced them to keep playing, and they all silently didn't know how to deal with it, so they just kind of murmured amongst themselves, and or told themselves
that's kind
things
of the
wasn't so
complete
bad.
opposite of the Coach Carter situation or the Glory
Absolutely.
Road situation, where you got guys where those are the differences between the different coaches that
Yeah.
you have in high school. That's just a little. Yeah,
And then I mean,
moving on.
this one would get more into the realm of like Karate Kid and Mr. Reese,
Yeah,
and the Cobra Kai
yeah,
sensei, just a bad teacher,
yeah,
who just sets his students down a bad path. Well, in this case, he's setting them up down a bad path,
yeah.
and where it's just Wendell Carter, the bell cow running back, basically something popped in his knee. They was basically gonna just put a cortisone shot in his knee, and he was gonna tell him to get back out there and keep running, which was in essence, in the long run, was gonna mess up his entire career. And he was about to, he was getting recruited to Grambling. So he didn't care about his career. And with that being said, his mom helped him recruit himself to Grambling, not his coach.
Yeah.
It dealt with all of that. It was just dealing with this high profile program that was going on, and it was all about this state championship and this coach's legacy, and how the students navigated through that.
Yeah.
That was about the best way to put that. So that's Varsity Blues.
And your choice, sir.
Unfortunately, I mean, with the budget cuts and just with the spotty casting, I mean, these are kind of semantics, but those were the little details that really surpassed. Because I like both of these movies almost equally for
Yeah.
various reasons. Because they both kind of fall into that same realm of just these high school students
Yeah.
and just this what's next after this and type
Hmm.
of thing. But I have to definitely lean toward Varsity Blues.
Agreed. I thought it was pretty pretty easy there. Only because, for one, I've never seen Heaven is a Playground, but even with your synopsis, it's just what the things that the pitfalls that that movie had to overcome. Varsity Blues just was all around great movie, and it was pretty just straightforward for me to pick that one.
Yeah, and surprisingly, got to see an NFL star in the movie too. Well, not a star, but he was an NFL player. The guy who played Wendell Carter was actually a running back who played at Stanford and played a little time in Kansas City.
Plus, when you have babyface Paul Walker in this movie, 100%. Gotta go with that.
Definitely, definitely, definitely.
All right. Well, let's talk about the 3-6 matchup. Another couple of your movies here. White Men Can't Jump and Above the Rim here.
Can't jump mine.
Yeah, came off your list. But like we said, we were gonna have some more street ball to talk about, and we got two mashup, two almost identical movies going up against each other.
Yes, we have street ball now.
Yeah,
and in both cases. So White Man Can't Jump is more, your 2-on-2 on the beach.
yeah.
Kind of, street balling, and then of course in Above the Rim, you have this full out just Rutgers type style tournament, and one type tournament that they were dealing with. And of course they also deal with high school basketball as well. It was a little bit of both, but it did predominantly deal with street, on basically outdoors, just out in the courts, out in the playgrounds. But White Men Can't Jump, Rudy Harrelson, Wesley Snipes. Like again, like I told you, they when we talk about these movies where people be in multiple stuff.
Yeah, true.
They White Men Can't Jump. They were in Money Train. They also was in Wildcats together. So 3 movies, but probably a 4th one. I'm not just spacing on at this point. Something that they did, some crazy,
some
cameo.
Offhand indie film that they did
Right,
together.
Right. Exactly. Sundance film festival. So you got Billy Ho and which is Willie Harrelson's character. I don't even know what Wesley Snipes' name was at this point. I've seen the movie in a couple of years, but
it's been a while.
But it's basically just about, like I said, street balling, hustling. Just hustling people on the court, making some cash. I mean, it was like a literal hustle. Like this was part of their earnings. Like this is how they made their living.
Character's name was Sidney Dean.
Oh, that's right, Sidney.
Yeah.
So, Sidney Dean. Yes, with the goofy hats and the colorful shorts and all. Yeah. Early 90s people, but
this was 90s through and through.
But I mean, it was a very solid for street, for playing on outdoor, outside courts, and you just going out there, how it used to be in the day. You just drive up on or ride up on from a bus and get out on the court and just go for it. And that's what this movie was kind of about, but it was definitely. But a lot of it was played for money, and of course it was some humor in there, and you got. Rosie Perez is the love interest with Woody Harrelson, and all of the pitfalls that come with that, and of course the pun of White Men Can't Jump and that little conversation. Nothing in the movie points to White Men Can't Jump. It was kind of interesting. It was just kind of a play on words, a pun per se, and it was a small line in there, and that's how Sidney took Billy's money and just based on a basically like a sucker bet, and you would have thought he wouldn't have kept the money, but he did. He kept it. He didn't give him the money back. He actually took his winnings, which I thought was kind of crazy, in the movie. But anyhow, so they basically got to make a large amount of cash at some point in the movie, so they get to face on the 2 greatest, tandems that's out there, which is the king and the duck, whoever they were, which is these two ex NBA players because they were these two giants, but they could play basketball really well. Um, and they find a way to defeat these two. And of course, it's with a dunk at the end by Billy Ho. So obviously he can dunk the ball all of a sudden. I don't know how, but in the aspect of he couldn't dunk it at any other point in the movie, but it was. But yeah, I digress. It was about street ball. Then you have Above the Rim. You have Kyle. I forgot his name. His name is Kyle something on the movie. Um, but he's a high school basketball player, star player on his team, looking to get recruited to Georgetown. Going up against some of the rival schools against which they was a play on words, but one of the characters was named Montross, who was supposed to be Eric Montross, who went to North Carolina, which was a center, and this guy was not that on it. I just think it was in reference to that at the time, so it was just kind of one of those things. But it was all about who was getting recruited where. That was the big thing. So, and of course, then his relationship, the character, the star character's relationship to the people around him, like how his relationship was with his mom. And his mom he was he just grew up in a single parent home, and they had a really close relationship, and he was real critical about her being there for his games, and and then he worked out all the time, and he made sure he got to practice, and he was very disciplined. And then he had like a kooky friend, which was played by Marlon Wayans, and he just got out of jail. But
Bugaloo.
What was his name?
Bugaloo.
Bugaloo. Okay, yeah. Nobody really liked him, but he was cool, and and the main character he looked out for him. So it was kind of one of them type of things. And I mean, you had Leon in it. Bernie Mac was in it. Tupac. What's his name? Is his name Wood Harrison?
Wood Harris.
Wood Harris. If y'all don't know who that is, remember the Titans. Remember Creed. You've seen him. He was Julius on Remember the Titans. So he was he strong side or was he left side?
I think he's strong side. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's strong side.
Okay. That's Wood Harris. He was also what was his name? He was Adonis's trainer.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
He was Duke's son.
Yeah.
I forgot Duke's last name though. That's why I'm spacing. But yes, so you got Wood Harris, and it was another one of those all-star type cast movies. They had quite a few people in there. Right in the heart of New York where it was made, and then of course you got Leon's story, and he had dealing with his demons and stuff like that. And then of course they had this big tournament at the end. So street ball versus street ball. I don't want to go any further because I mean, if you've seen it, you've seen it. If you haven't, go out and see it. I mean, Above the Rim, hands down, has to be next to Shawshank Redemption. I swear, I keep saying this. Has to be the two most played movies of all time on TNT networks. I've never seen two movies aired as much as those two movies. So, with that, I guess we got to come down to vote.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with White Men Can't Jump just because it's more of a classic '90s movie to me. I just nostalgically, I remember that one more.
All right, for the listeners, before I give my pick, I'm gonna give y'all a couple of little tidbits, and then y'all can make y'all choices at home or whatever. But in White Men Can't Jump, and you talked about this off air. Believe it or not, Gary Payton was actually filmed in the movie.
Yes,
and never had a line. He was just an extra.
Yeah.
Why was he just an extra in the movie? To the life of me is baffling. Like they didn't even give this man a cameo. Like he was just. I don't know where he was in the movie. It was one of these fun facts I looked up, but he was physically in the movie. Now for Above the Rim, Alan Payne, better known as G Money in New Jack City, or Alan Payne, the one from House of Pain as Cousin Calvin.
Yep.
He was the original choice for Kyle Watson, which is the lead on the lead guy on I know it's Kyle something on Above the Rim, which was played by Dwayne Martin. But and if nobody know what Dwayne Martin is, ex-husband of Tish Campbell, long time marriage that went on even back in the days from when Tish Campbell played and Martin and all of that good stuff. So
96 to 2018.
yep, very long, yeah, look at that. What was it?
Quite a long time.
22 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would have got it for a minute. So yeah, so with that, now that I gave you all my wonderful fun facts, fortunately we're gonna have to go with you know, I have to go with actually above the rim.
Okay.
So this one has to go down to a vote because the more I'm looking at this, so yeah, my choice is above the rim. So
Well, with the coin flip above the rim goes through, so
upset special.
I mean, and that's fine. I mean, honestly, like we said earlier, these are carbon copies of each other, and all honesty,
They really
they're
were
the same movie.
it was unbelievable that these two even got matched up. I was like, "Are you serious? The two
What are
street
the
ball
odds?
movies." I mean, in the first round. I mean, if it was in the second round, fine. But in the first round,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Come on now, let's just break it up a little bit."
All right. And now what I think is the toughest matchup of all of the entire bracket, even going back to the first episode, I teased this. Warrior takes on as an underdog is going to take on the powerhouse Moneyball here. The 2-7 matchup to round things out. And these are two just fantastically written movies. But starting out with Warrior as the underdog here. Warrior is based. It's a story about two brothers that are fighting in this fictitious what is it called, the Spartan tournament or something like that.
Mhm.
And it's just a like UFC inspired. This is at the time where UFC really just started getting actually pretty big. It's kind of, I think it was around the time of Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman and everything. All of that stuff was going down. So this is honestly the height of the UFC right now. But I digress. It's got what's his name, Tom Hardy, and I can't remember the other actor's name. He's been in so many other things too. I can't remember his name. But they're two brothers that grow up in a pretty fractured home. And the Tom Hardy's character, he's a wrestling champion. He really is a part of like this working class, stayed home. He's really true to his family, and he felt like his brother had betrayed him and whatnot. It's really the story about these two brothers and the weird past that their lives took after they kind of split as young kids. Um,
Joe Edgerton.
Joe Edgerton, yes. Yeah, so and Joe Edgerton's character, he is building a family, he's doing great things for himself, but then he just finds himself at a point where he still wants to fight, and he he goes to these weird back alley like Nacho Libre type UFC events that are in these like random parking lots
and the
with
bars.
big tents that just pop
Right.
up out of nowhere, and he's fighting for like $30 per fight in these back alley fights for no reason. He doesn't have to. He's a school teacher, I believe, at the beginning of the movie and everything. So, I mean, he's doing just fine. And so somehow they both end up getting into this tournament, and it comes down to the two of them, and it's just a very powerful story about how one is trying to reach out, try to get trying to get back to his brother and really try to understand and mend that relationship. The other one, he's just there to just do his thing, and he's being this gritty guy that just has got this callous shell over him, and he's not letting anything penetrate it, no matter how much he's in pain, no matter how much hurt he's in emotionally or physically. He just doesn't want to give up, it doesn't want to give in until he very much so has to at the end of things. Now that's Warrior. Fantastic movie, one of my favorite movies ever.
Very underrated.
Very underrated movie. Even with it being coming out during the time of the height of the UFC, this movie still really didn't
It
hit.
came out at a weird time. So I mean, I don't know if it was weird, but it
It,
kind of passed me by. Like
there
I
were so
heard
many
about
other
it.
things going on at the time, and even in the sports world, like
Right.
at this time,
This was in 2011, by the
Yeah,
way, people. So
UFC was just taking off. Like I said, it was really
Mhm.
where like that Chris Weidman and Anderson Silva era, if anybody remembers that. But then also, I mean, this is just this is popping off when LeBron goes to Miami. We're a
Exactly.
couple years into that. I mean, I can't even imagine what's happening in the NFL at this time. Trying to think back what was happening in 2010, but it feels like it was forever ago. But this is Warrior. It's taking on Moneyball. Moneyball, I think, is just a story about Billy Bean, GM, I guess a failed prospect taken by the Mets, I believe. And his kind of career fizzles out, and he becomes a general manager of the Oakland A's. And how he sees it, where he can't really go up against these big businesses like the Yankees and other teams that just have endless amount of money being funneled into their organizations, where he's only got $40 million. The Yankees are spending $120 million on their payroll,
Hmm.
and they just can't really even attract stars to come to their team. And then he just kind of flips the script on its head and decides to just completely change the way that he builds a team. Goes really analytic heavy, and he finds this kind of system from this weird quirky dude that's working in Cleveland's management office in Jonah Hill. And so he steals him. He actually buys him from Cleveland to come in and actually be his assistant GM now. So, and it's just the story of how they built that team over a few years after losing three major stars, after just getting knocked out of the playoffs in a heart wrenching loss, and then how they just did everything that they can to rebuild this team that was absolute crap into something that actually worked. So, your
Uh,
thoughts on these two movies here?
well, I don't want to regurgitate too much about Warrior. I think you gave a perfect synopsis to it. Just for everybody who didn't know, MMA.
Yes.
Got an MMA representation going on here again, which makes for an interesting matchup. But it's a very well written movie. Nick Nolte, like you said, John Hardy, Joe Edgerton,
Joe Edgerton, Tom Hardy.
Tom Hardy. What did I
Yeah.
say? Joe
John,
Hardy.
yeah, Joe. I don't
What am
know.
I thinking? What am I saying? Oh my goodness. And moving on. Um, yes, just an all star cast.
Yeah.
Had a few other, people doing a couple of they had a few other people with some cameos in there, but very well written movie. Uh, so it speaks for itself. Then we on the other side of the ball, Moneyball. See, this is getting into that whole draft day thing. It's all that behind the scenes
Mm-hmm.
stuff. How do you construct a team, numbers wise now? Now we're dealing with salary caps and the finances and what does it take to build a team and put a contending a competitive team out there, and old conventional style of wisdom of thinking versus you know analytics,
Yeah.
and extreme and advanced analytics, and focusing on numbers that no one else focuses on. Where and finding value in those numbers, and then how did that translate on the field? And to watch how all that came together, and another based on a true story, this actually happened. And yes, Billy Bean did start his career with the Mets, but he moved around. He was actually even played with the Twins, even
Yeah, he
doing
played
it
with the Twins just before. I think that was just before he kind of called it quits, right?
right. And he
Towards
was
the end.
on the championship team. Like he
Oh,
wasn't a big contributor, but he was
yeah.
on that team.
I know he was with the Diamondbacks at one point.
Yeah, he was
Quite a
he
few teams.
moved around. I
Yeah,
think he even went back at some point. He even played for the A's. On top of in his career, you actually played for them. So
gotcha.
that's probably how he
Was it
got.
Yankees or did he play for Boston?
I have to look that up. I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't know. That's what I'm saying. He bounced around,
yeah,
but
he was everywhere.
he did play with the A's at one point.
Yes.
So which probably contributed to him when it working for the A's. But yes, I mean, man, I was just blown away because they took a concept and they made it work for themselves, and there was some success in it, but half the movie was trying to convince the people for the buy-in,
Yeah, and that's
just
the
the
other
buy-in
part.
to the
It's
product.
like a large part of the movie, about probably 45 minutes, is him, Billy Bean, kind of going through his office and weeding out the guys that don't want to buy in and fire you. Like, you need a buy-in, or this is what we're doing now. It's my one of my favorite scenes is when he actually brings uh, Jonah Hill's character into the meeting before the free agency period even starts. He's like,
Mm.
"This is how much money we have, and here's what we're doing." And he goes through what we're doing, like, and one of the old heads who has the old way of thinking. He has this old adage, like, "Got to remember, this man only has to answer to God and the owner, and he doesn't have to listen to any one of us." And just how much you could see everybody in that office just being so pissed off that he is just trying to throw out this old he didn't even try to throw it out. He's just trying to try something new, because they don't have the money to do anything.
Right.
Like,
Do you remember what the process was? I mean, do you remember what they were like really discussing?
they were talking about, like, bat speed, and they just kept going. They literally sat down. They went, "What do you think about whatever name?"
Yeah.
And they literally went around and just said some stupid stuff.
Yeah.
It just made no sense.
Girlfriend
Oh,
doesn't
yeah.
look too. She's not that very attractive. You know, that's
his
low,
confidence has
that's
to
low
be shot.
self-esteem.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's a real evaluated tool. Are you freaking serious?
And that's what some of these old heads think. And it's funny because I watched this movie with my girlfriend just a couple weeks ago, and she just absolutely scoffed at that idea of but I'm like, that's seriously how some of these old guys, and this is why baseball needs to change, is because this is what people actually think.
This is why you see half the league never go to the playoffs.
Yeah.
They just, what are you doing? You know, and they like they good. What he like what Brad Pitt's character was like, good body nonsense. Yeah, he has a good body. You know, he looks the part. What do you mean looks the part?
Yeah, they just, like I said, they're literally going around the room, and Brad Pitt's character says it. He's like, "You guys are literally sitting around here talking about absolutely nothing, and let's move on. Let's get some work done. What can we do? We can go get these guys who can do whatever the analytics say, and let's go get them super cheap and go back to the playoffs." And I guess I'm spoiling it. They got it done.
In essence.
Spoiling it, this happened 30 years, 20 years ago.
Yes, just you Google it, people.
Yeah.
It's there. Moneyball, just the concept. Billy Bean. It's based on a true story. You know.
Enough
really
talking about the two movies. I mean, your pick. Which movie would you put through here?
Can we put both?
I honestly want to. I want to find out a way how we can knock out something else.
Let's take Rocky out. No.
I mean, honestly, we already got Rocky IV, so.
No. Well, if I have to come down to one or the other, it's just not fair. Why does white men can't jump in above the rim sitting there together?
Exactly.
Compare these box office numbers suck.
I know they suck. Honestly, we should have made
even the Heaven is a Playground. This is like, you have the most comparable, matchups in this bracket outside of the 1-8.
Yeah.
Even though, even in the 1-8, they both 1976 movies.
Yeah.
They
both classics.
Yeah.
Both kicked off a film franchise series.
So in essence, they all kind of like
they all have similarities.
Mutually paired, yeah, in some kind of way. I don't know why in this West, but this West is a very weird division. So, but I have to go with Moneyball.
And I feel this is the same kind of issue that I have with the matchup in the what is that, the East bracket, with Greatest Game Ever Played and Major League. Two fantastic movies. Two movies that respectfully, honestly, should be in the second round if you really just kind of look at those movies by themselves against everything else that's in the second round.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, I would put those guys in, but I have to agree with you. Moneyball does edge out Warrior as a better sports movie. And it sucks, but it's just the fact of the reality there. So Moneyball gets its way through.
Right. Yeah. The only other thing I can see that is as closely matched up and badly matched up has to be that 3-6 right above it. That above the rim and what?
Yeah.
My God, it's like the same damn movie.
Yeah, exactly. Like, honestly, I would, if we could, I'd take out Rudy and put in Warrior.
Okay, you're gonna just stop with this Rudy thing. Rudy has advanced because Rudy is good enough to be there. Now the fact
or facing the Giants. Rudy are facing the Giants. Take one of
Warrior
those
is
two out
gone.
and get Warrior in there.
Warriors out of there.
Warrior should be in the second round. It's so tragic it had to go
They're
up
in the
against
constellation
Moneyball.
bracket now, so they can go to be the champions of the constellation bracket.
100%. I mean, I don't think there's any other movie that got knocked out that even comes close.
Well, Durham. What are you talking
Well,
about?
fair, but I mean, I haven't seen it, so
Young Blue. No, I'm kidding.
don't even start with me.
Legend of Bagger Vance. Are
All
you
right.
serious?
Well, let's go ahead and wrap things up. So that is the first round of our March Madness inspired brackets here. So definitely, if you guys have any thoughts, go ahead, leave them in the comments down below. Again, like, rate, share, and subscribe to the channel here and wherever you're getting your podcasts, so that you never miss an episode coming out. Plus, make sure that you share, just so that we can continue to grow, become a larger community of sports fans, just having a nice place where we can all get together and kind of talk crap with each other, give each other shit, and just talk sports, because that's really what we want to do. And outside of that, again, you can follow along with our picks on Twitter. It's at @the_square pod is our page there, and you can actually see the brackets themselves. Plus, go ahead and make your picks as well. We'll have a poll up for each of the different divisions for the first round matchups to see where you guys as a fan base fare against what we picked here. And we'll continue to do that throughout the kind of length of this, the length of us choosing these picks here. So, well, again, thank you guys for listening, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Have a good night, and we'll see you next time.